Well, good afternoon, lunch hour to you guys here at Carolina Weather Authority. Hope y'all are doing well. This is Joshua Nagelberg with the latest on Tropical Storm Isaias, and that is something that we are growing a little bit more concerned with as we continue to get closer to a potential southeastern United States impact and maybe even landfall. So let's go ahead and take a look at the latest here. And before you go any further, if you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Carolina Weather Authority, and invite your friends and family, anybody you know that lives out, especially at the coast. Definitely, we're going to be keeping you posted on the latest, and we continue to have articles on the increased potential threat to the Carolinas and all of the Southeast as we head into the end of the weekend and early next week. And our Facebook page, of course, will be posting some of the latest models and our gut feeling and what's going on and anything from the Hurricane Center we feel you guys need to see. This is the latest out of the National Hurricane Center. We're going to get to Tropical Storm Isaias in a little bit. There's another wave that came off of Africa. Right now, not looking like anything we really need to be too concerned with, just something to keep an eye on down the road, but nothing that looks like it's going to develop. So let's go ahead and get to Isaias. And this is the latest track. Let me go back real quick for that. Sorry about that. Latest forecast track from the National Hurricane Center. And let me put the line on to show you guys. Does obviously threaten quite a bit of the east coast of the United States on this current track. Right now, the system is getting ready to move into Hispaniola, so the Dominican Republic. And there's going to be some uncertainty in these models and in the intensity of the storm until it emerges to the north of Hispaniola. After that point, I think our forecast certainty is going to increase quite a bit. And the reason why is that we're dealing with a large system that's still kind of disorganized, and we're about to deal with frictional effects from mountains and from two bodies of water on both sides of the island. Once we can clear the Dominican Republic to the north, then the Turks and Caicos Islands over here are going to be the area that we have to watch. So wherever this storm ends up, by late tonight, first thing tomorrow morning, is going to be kind of that starting point for what's going to be, I think, our certain forecast. So right now, the model trends have shifted east. Nobody here at Carolina Weather Authority is even surprised by that. You know, honestly, it's kind of what we had been concerned with from the get-go, but of course earlier this week there was a ton of uncertainty, and there really still is, if I could be honest with you guys. But what we are looking at is potentially something impacting Florida by the start of the weekend, and then eventually up into the Carolinas by maybe as soon as Sunday night or Monday morning, and then farther up the East Coast by Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. So there's not a ton of time left to start preparing. You should be preparing anyway. The other thing I'm going to say here too is that with this track a little bit farther to the east, there stands a better chance for this system to develop into a hurricane. Right now the Hurricane Center is capped at 70 miles per hour, but they have mentioned in their discussion that there's certainly a chance that higher intensities are on the table here, and we definitely agree with that. We've kind of talked about it. We're not hyping up a major hurricane threat at this point. It's a little too soon to even say if that's on the table, and I'll get to reasons why. But we definitely think this thing will be a hurricane at some point, and we believe the National Hurricane Center is going to have to up their forecast strength by the time we get later into the weekend and early next week. The other thing I'm going to mention too is that the entire Bahamas chain are likely to be impacted with tropical storm conditions. And unfortunately, over in here, there's quite a bit of warm water. Despite some wind shear, a good shot at this system strengthening, perhaps into a hurricane, and that would put places like Abaco and Grand Bahama Island in the path of those winds. And they are still reeling, if you remember from last September, from Hurricane Dorian. So this could end up being a very substantially bad system for these guys up here in the northwest Bahamas. Right now we are dealing with a lot of rain in Puerto Rico and Hispaniola, and I think we're going to see a lot of damage from flooding over the next 24 to 48 hours. So this system is already making waves, and it's just a newly coined tropical storm with winds of 60 miles per hour. So let's go ahead and take a look at the wide view of the satellite here. This is Isaias, and you can see how large this area of thunderstorms is. And no matter how strong it is in the center, that's a huge potential rainmaker for these islands here where there are mountains, and going to be a big flood threat for Puerto Rico and Dominican Republic and Haiti. So very bad news for those folks. The rest of the Gulf and the Atlantic Basin are pretty quiet. We've got a front that's moved offshore the Carolinas. You'll notice it's a tiny bit cooler today. Still humid though. And a couple days ago, the models tried to develop this area maybe into a weak low pressure system. Not off the table, but I'm not really concerned about it. It is going offshore. And then here's our tropical wave, which has a small chance of developing right now. Not too likely at this point to do so. This large area here you can see in the brighter grays is a dry Saharan air layer, and that's likely going to kind of deter this thing from getting too intense. But we'll keep an eye on it when it gets out here, maybe next week. So more on that later on. Here is Isaias. I'll translate the knots to miles per hour. 50 knots is about 60 miles per hour, and 60 knots is about 70 miles per hour. So it's a pretty decent sized tropical storm. We do have a Hurricane Hunter aircraft in the storm. They recently saw low pressure of 1,005 millibars to the southeast of the Dominican Republic, finding a couple of low pressure centers. Here's one down here. But notice all the intense winds are well to the north and east of the center. These are 60 to 70 mile per hour winds aloft where the plane is flying. And this indicates that there's quite a bit of intense weather up here on the northeastern part of Hispaniola. And there's a very good chance as this system tracks towards land when it hits the mountains that this area of thunderstorms takes over. And that's what we're really watching for, and why I think the models have shifted farther to the east and to the right of their track today than they did yesterday and the day before. They're on to something, and we tend to agree here that this is going to be potentially a news center by the end of the day or by the overnight hours tonight. And again, you can kind of see these thunderstorm areas. Our low pressure center is over here. There's some westerly to southwest wind shear that's blowing all the storms off to its north and east. This area of western Puerto Rico is getting crushed with very heavy rain. I think I've seen 9 inches on the radar and more to come. But we're watching this area over here because what will happen is this low pressure, as it comes into the mountains, may reform, and new low pressure may be getting going here, and that's going to be bringing conditions all the way up into the Turks and Caicos Islands by tomorrow morning. The GFS model has been showing that. This is from Tropical Tidbits, the new 12Z run, and you can see this low pressure kind of skips over the island and reforms up in here. This is where all the winds at 10 meters, so basically 30 feet, are. And you can see, kind of keeping an eye on this track, that it's going to take this system right across the Bahamas during the day tomorrow on Friday and strengthening as it does so. And then coming close to southeast Florida, it looks like, on Saturday. But the new track of the GFS has shifted east and is pretty much in line with a lot of what else we're seeing. And then it looks like with this next trough picking this system up, it's going to start to accelerate north and make a right turn. The big question is, does it happen over Florida, does it happen off the coast, or does it happen in between and do like a Dorian track? And our gut feeling right now is it's leaning more to the right, and I think eastern parts of North Carolina stand the best chance at being affected. If we take this model out, this is probably a low-end hurricane, Category 1 hurricane on Sunday afternoon east of Jacksonville. And the newer frames aren't in yet, but you can already see that right bend starting to occur. So, definitely not letting down our guard in Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina, but I think the way that North Carolina sticks out, we've got bigger problems to potentially worry about early next week. The 6Z GFS parallel model, which is kind of an experimental, soon-to-be new GFS model, which we've seen do a little bit better, does show kind of this second area of low pressure forming later today, and then tracking right across the Bahamas and strengthening by Friday night and Saturday, and then definitely strengthening Saturday night into Sunday morning into a Category 1 or 2 hurricane, and then tracking very close to the Outer Banks, it looks like, Monday morning, and then zipping up the coast after that. This would be a Category 2 or 3 storm very close to Hatteras. And look, we're not saying this is definitely going to happen, but if you've been following our posts, we've seen many models kind of trend in this general direction. A few jumped away from it and returned back to it. So if you're in the Outer Banks, you should be preparing for a hurricane, I believe. That can change, but that's kind of what I'm thinking at this point. The European model from last night, and I apologize for the slowness of this. It's the model, the page is just struggling. Oh, here we go. Keeps the system weak and over South Florida into the Eastern Gulf. But that's the outlier. We're tending to believe the other models have a better shot. The Canadian kind of was in that boat as well. Again, going across Cuba as a weak tropical storm and then ending up west of Florida. I'm not going to wait for this to load. The NavGem, again, not our best tropical model. I know a few of you posted about that on Monday when I posted that image. And look, I see your concern with that as well. But, it continues to show this track east of Florida and strengthening over the warm Gulf Stream into a hurricane by the end of the weekend and early next week. with a track looks like across Emerald Isle and then coming out near the Delmarva on Monday and Monday evening. So yes, very many of these global models are showing an eastern North Carolina system, and I think that's what we need to at least start looking at preparing for at this point. The Icon model, which is a German kind of mesoscale model, keeps this system as a tropical storm through Friday and into Friday night. And I apologize, our model's pretty darn slow here. But right across the Bahamas, looks like every island in the Bahamas could be impacted by this track. And cut to the chase already. Yes, it looks like it comes pretty darn close to Miami and Fort Lauderdale by, this is Saturday, but then a turn right and up the coast. So it comes close, but never really makes landfall in Florida. This is it leaving Vero Beach and then moving right up the coast. And this track is a little farther west and weaker, but is starting to strengthen and organize. And you can see it starts picking up steam off of Myrtle Beach on Monday. It is a little bit slower than the other models, but it actually does make landfall. Looks like very close to Emerald Isle Monday night and early on Tuesday. And then finally, we'll look at the HWRF and the HMON. These are tropical models which have a higher resolution. And I had these up earlier, and I know it's really slow right now. But you can see intensification over the Bahamas on Friday night and Saturday with the HWRF. And we've got potentially a hurricane east of Florida Saturday evening. And it's intensifying over the warm waters of the Gulf Stream. And Sunday, we've got a hurricane coming up close to Cape Fear. That's early Monday morning. And then across Emerald Isle or Cape Lookout during the morning Monday. And then going further up the coast. And by the way, this track is more of a concern I have for the Northeast, for New Jersey, Long Island, and New England. Something we'll have to watch there as well down the road. Could be a damaging storm up there if it comes that close. The parallel HWRF intensifies it even more and keeps it farther east, which I guess is better for South Carolina, but maybe not the Outer Banks, and then zips it right up the coast here, affecting Rhode Island and Cape Cod. And finally, HMON model kind of does a similar song and dance. Looks like it's coming right over the Bahamas. This is Abaco right here, which got hammered last year with Hurricane Dorian. This is Saturday afternoon. Looks like we have Sunday night Hurricane Isaias, and still strengthening. This is South Carolina here Sunday morning. Winds are now at hurricane intensity. This is 85 miles per hour Sunday afternoon. This is Cape Fear. This is Cape Lookout, and Lookout sounds like a phrase I'll be using for Sunday night, Monday morning. So maybe even as early as late Sunday evening, we could have impact in the eastern Carolinas, but more likely with a little bit slower track, it's going to be first thing on Monday. So I think our worst weather is Monday morning right now. The models tend to agree this thing is going to make a turn somewhere east of or near Florida and then threaten North Carolina and then potentially come up the East Coast or stay just offshore. Intensity forecasts are still kind of mixed. Looks like we likely won't have a hurricane probably until maybe Saturday, as wind shear will be an issue and land masses will be an issue. But definitely several models show a hurricane potential at this point. Even major hurricane is kind of the outlier. And, you know, I'm not going to rule that out yet, but not as likely. And then the global ensemble forecast, again, follows that track right over the Outer Banks. That's the La Nina index. And then finally, we're going to look at wind shear. Here's Isaias starting to move into an area where there will be a little less favorable winds aloft. We have some wind shear out of the southwest. But then by the time the system gets up to the central Bahamas, that wind shear should relax, and we should see, with the warm waters, a much more favorable environment for this thing to become a hurricane by the start of the weekend. Here's those water temperatures. 30 Celsius is warm bath water, and a track right over the Gulf Stream will bring it over favorable water. As this storm is large, I think wind shear will keep it from strengthening very quickly, but I don't think it'll stop it from strengthening. To be honest with you, it just may be a couple more days before that happens. So really, we're more concerned that this thing could intensify steadily in this area east of Florida and in the northwest Bahamas, which would be bad for the Bahamas and then eventually bad potentially for North Carolina. There's a lot of ocean heat content. Definitely right up the Gulf Stream is favorable for that to happen. And, you know, our track goes right over the Gulf Stream right now. Many models are pretty much very close to the coast. So we've got a lot on the table at this point. Again, you know, we're going to have changes to this forecast. I expect it to be a hurricane up in here. Major hurricane, not terribly likely, but definitely a potential for that to happen up in this area, maybe even down in here by Saturday afternoon and night. But definitely, if you're in the coastal Carolinas, in particular east of Wilmington and all the way up to the Outer Banks, and really even up Long Island, New Jersey, and into coastal Mass, I think you will be threatened with at least some sort of fringe effects from a hurricane early next week. So we'll keep you guys posted on the latest, but please subscribe to our YouTube channel and join our page here, CarolinaWXAuthority.com. We'll keep you posted. Stay safe, everyone.